All right, so get this. We're going deep today on something pretty wild, honestly. It's Elon Musk's growing influence on the U.S. government.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we found this article called "The Muskification of the Federal Government is in Full Swing."
Okay.
And, well, it's got me thinking, like, is Uncle Sam about to get, like, a tech makeover?
Right.
And what does that even mean for us?
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to see how technology, business, and government are all kind of coming together these days.
Yeah, for sure. And just so everyone listening is on the same page, we were talking about Elon Musk, right? The Tesla and SpaceX guy.
Yes, that's right.
But he's not just launching rockets anymore. He's, like, actually in the government now.
Right.
Like, he's a top advisor to President Trump, and he leads that Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, as they're calling it.
Yes, by OGE, that's it.
DOGE. What is that exactly?
Well, that's a pretty new department. Their goal is to make the government run more smoothly. Finding ways to save money, things like that.
Okay, so like streamlining.
Exactly. And Musk's appointment to lead it, well, it definitely raised some eyebrows given his, reputation for shaking things up in the tech world.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, he's not exactly known for being subtle.
Right.
And speaking of shaking things up, this article points out some pretty crazy parallels between what Musk did when he took over Twitter and what's happening in the government now.
Interesting.
Like, remember that fork in the road email he sent to all the Twitter employees?
The one where he demanded exceptional performance or offered buyouts?
Yes, exactly. That one. We'll get this. A memo with almost the exact same wording. Even the subject line was sent to federal employees recently.
Oh, way, really?
Yeah, it called for unwavering dedication to excellence, emphasizing traits like reliability, loyalty, and trustworthiness.
Wow. So basically, work harder or get out.
Pretty much. Or
Yeah.
take the buyout option. And it's making a lot of people nervous, especially those who saw what happened to Twitter.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely some concerns about, applying a business model to something like the government.
Right, because they're totally different.
Yeah. Professor William Klepper from Columbia Business School, he's been warning about this. He says you can't just directly translate principles from business to government.
Because businesses and governments, they have totally different goals.
Exactly. A business is all about making money, maximizing profit for its shareholders.
Right, and the government is supposed to provide services to citizens.
Exactly. Things like ensuring their well-being, upholding the law, those are very different objectives.
Yeah, and it's not clear if the same strategies will work in both places.
Definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Like, it makes me wonder if Musk's approach to cost-cutting, which he was very vocal about at Twitter,
Right.
if that's applied to something like the Department of Education, what could that mean for teacher schools and students?
That's a really important question to consider.
Right, because if we look at what happened at Twitter under Musk's leadership,
Okay.
we see a lot of cost-cutting measures, things like mass layoffs and reductions in infrastructure. If a similar approach is applied to the Department of Education, it could mean bigger class sizes, fewer resources for teachers, and cuts to essential programs.
Yeah, those are all real possibilities.
And, I mean, some people might say that a bit of efficiency is a good thing.
Sure.
Right. Like, who doesn't want the government to run more smoothly and save taxpayer money?
Well, of course, everyone wants that, but
Yeah.
we have to remember that government services, they often involve really complex social and ethical considerations.
Right.
It's not just about maximizing efficiency or minimizing costs.
So are we saying that applying a tech industry mindset to government could actually be harmful?
Well, it's definitely a possibility. We have to be careful.
I mean, Musk is brilliant. He's done some amazing things in the private sector.
He has, for sure.
Still, could some of his approaches actually benefit the government?
That's the big question, isn't it? Can that Silicon Valley success translate to the public sector?
Right, because it's tempting to think that a little bit of that magic could really shake things up in a good way.
It is tempting, for sure.
But, governing a nation isn't quite the same as building rockets or electric cars.
It's not, no.
So let's talk more about that Twitter comparison.
Okay.
You mentioned cost cutting, but there's a lot more going on there, right?
Right, there were those mass layoffs and then all the changes to content moderation and then, of course, that whole data center shutdown. It was chaos.
Oh, yeah. I remember that vaguely.
Yeah.
And didn't all of that turmoil actually affect Twitter as a platform? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I remember something about its value dropping.
Yeah, you're remembering correctly. Fidelity estimated that Twitter's value plummeted by something like 80% under Musk's leadership.
80%. Wow. That's huge.
It is, yeah, and it just shows that even really smart people can make decisions that backfire sometimes.
Yeah, so it sounds like while Twitter was kind of falling apart, Musk's political influence was actually growing.
It's an interesting contrast, right?
It is, like it seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, but it shows that success in one area doesn't always mean success in another.
Okay, true. And I guess it's also worth remembering that Musk was very publicly supporting President Trump's re-election campaign.
He was, and he used Twitter to do it,
Right.
which probably helped solidify his position in the administration.
Yeah, probably. So
Yeah.
now he's leading DOGE, and he's tasked with making the government more efficient.
Right.
I can see why people are drawing comparisons to the Twitter situation.
Yeah, the parallels are there.
But is it really fair to assume he'll use the same playbook?
Well, we can't know for sure, but that fork in the road memo to federal employees,
No.
it really makes you wonder if he's planning a similar overhaul.
And what about the potential downsides?
Oh.
If we use Twitter as an example and apply that to the government,
Yeah.
what are we really talking about here? Because it's one thing for a social media platform to have some issues,
Yeah.
but the government provides essential services that people really rely on.
That's a crucial point. The stakes are so much higher when we're talking about things like healthcare, education,
Yeah.
national security.
Right, all of that.
It's a long list, and any disruptions or cuts to those services, even if it's in the name of efficiency, could have huge consequences for millions of people.
So imagine if the Department of Education went through the same kind of upheaval that Twitter did.
Scary thought.
And it's not even just about cuts or disruptions to services. It's also about the overall approach.
That's right.
Like Musk is all about data and results,
Hmm.
which can be very effective in business.
It can.
But can that same approach work for complex social issues that need a lot of nuance and careful consideration of ethical implications?
That's a really important consideration.
This whole situation is fascinating because it forces us to really think about how our government should operate in the 21st century.
It really does.
It's like we're trying to figure out if the principles from the tech world,
Yeah.
which have obviously changed so much of our lives,
They have.
can be applied to public service.
It's a huge question.
And what if it doesn't work?
Right.